Alright, so now on to puttying. Now, epoxy putty typically comes in two parts, a hardener and the actual putty. Now what you want to do is basically trim off about how much you think you're going to need. Now, since I know I'm going to be using a pretty decent amount for this, I'm actually going to use a fairly large amount here. Again, you want to measure out just about equal parts of both parts. Alright. Okay then. Now to get this little protective backing off. Which is easier said than done at times. Okay, and once you are ready, I also advise you dip in a little water just to make it so it doesn't stick to your fingers. But all you do is just knead it together until the color changes and into a uniform color. Shouldn't take too much time to do, but then again, you want to make sure it's thoroughly kneaded together, and if you need to, dip your fingers in water again, and yeah. Okay then. Now I'm just going to start off using just a little bit, because I want to coat this in here. I just want to get just enough along in here to more or less get it flush. And don't be afraid to just break off little amounts and work with that if it's easier, depending on the exact job you're doing. There's some jobs will be easy to work with big amounts, and others will be easier to work with small amounts. Again, keeping your fingers wet does make working with this stuff a little easier. Okay. Now, generally you want to save this stuff for when you're doing big gaps like this, since it is a lot more expensive than other putty types, and also because just nature of working with it can be, it's a little hard to work around because you gotta basically pack it in pretty well, and also because it takes a fairly long amount of time to fully set up. Especially when compared to some of the other putty types. Okay. Now I've just about got this fully filled in. You need to, don't be afraid to use some of your other tools in your arsenal to just help try and shape it. As probably most important, just to ensure you're okay now. Now, worst case, you can always sand a lot of this down. Worst case, generally you want to try to get done with as little putty as possible, just because it will save you some time later on. And now let's stick this on. Alright. Oops, didn't okay, there we go. Now it's on. Right, now you just let that sit and cure up, and typically take about, I believe it's a little instruction thing said about 6 hours for it to fully cure up. So unfortunately, that's the other downside, as I said, to this putty type, is that it does take a long while to fully set up before you can get back at it. Again, just trying to get this stuff all the way in. Now, this is where you want to be really careful, as since I am dealing with, or if you're dealing with little details such as those, just try to work around them as much as possible, and worst case you can always scrape some of this out. Okay, that looks like it'll just about do it for that little part. Okay. Again, try to keep your putty fresh, and try to hurry it up since I'm almost out of time already. Okay, we'll get a little time. Now, if I don't get all this shown here, I'll just go ahead and finish it up off camera. But I think I can get it done. And just about out. So I guess I'll stop it here, but yeah, more or less you can see I'm just going to finish filling in these little holes and come back next time and I'll show sanding.